All right. My name is Major Thompson, and today we are going to discuss the non-judicial punishment. Now, this class is not about the legal nuances of NJP and when a command should choose to do NJP or not. Really, what this class is focused on is, as a new platoon commander, what do you need to know when an NJP is going on? Now, how we're going to get at that, we're going to discuss preparation, and in that, notifying the accused, and then the documentation that'll go into that. We're going to talk about the conduct of the NJP itself, specifically the parts of the proceeding and who attends. Then we're going to actually show you an NJP, and from that, discuss what things out of there the platoon commander, what role the platoon commander is going to play. Now, you can follow along with the documents that we're going to be reviewing in mock NJP and Moodle under that course code there. I had both blank copies as well as copies of the documents that would be used for the scenario we're going to view put into the folder, as well as some of the references, legal references, used to conduct a Article 15 NJP. So, as we talked about with this is focused at the platoon commander. However, there's some decisions that are not the platoon commanders to make, but that will be key in the NJP. The first off is the chain of command will need to determine the level of NJP authority for the offense or for the accusation. Now, in Article 15 of the Manual for Courts Martial, the statement is an officer, commander, duly appointed section officer in charge can conduct an NJP. However, that authority may be withheld by the next higher echelon. Typically in the Marine Corps, you will not find lieutenants and platoon commanders capable of conducting an NJP at their level. The lowest you often see it is the company, and sometimes the battalion and squadron level it is withheld. There also may be nuances depending on the rank of the Marine that it may be withheld. Certain cases, NJPs of officers and staff NCOs may be held to the level of an 06 commander. That is just something that must be determined when you check into your unit. So, as a platoon commander, when you first arrive, one question you have to ask is, what is the lowest echelon of command that can perform NJPs in this unit? And then understanding where your unit is in that command structure. Now, one of the crucial points about this is, even though today we're going to use the platoon, company, battalion model that you would find in an infantry battalion, a lot of you are going to go to units that don't follow that command structure. And so asking the question up front should help orient you on who has NJP authority, and then what, based off their rank, they're capable of doing. We'll review more about the rank and the severity of punishments that they can levy in an NJP here in just a second. The other thing to consider is notifying the accused. Now, the notification document itself is not standard. However, there are several minimum requirements that it has to have, and I will go through a document here in just a second, but the minimum requirements, the bare bone requirements that it should have are, it should tell the Marine the article they're accused of violating. It should tell them the max punishment allowable. Now, again, we talked about determining the level of NJP authority. When I show you the chart, you'll see that the max punishment is pretty drastic between certain ranks. So communicating that to the Marine or sailor that's accused, it may change their calculus on proceeding to a court-martial or not. And then, and this is key, it's the election of the rights that the accused has at an NJP. Well, what are the rights? Well, the Marine or sailor has the right to see a lawyer, and we'll cover more of that, about that when we get to documentation about what they get to take for legal review. The other thing is they have the right to refuse NJP and proceed to a courts-martial, an actual legal case. The only time they cannot do that is if they're deployed underway on a ship. They cannot refuse NJP. They have the right to personally appear at the NJP proceedings held at the unit. They have the right to review all evidence against them. They also have the right to request witnesses and evidence in their defense, and they have the right to request that the NJP proceedings be public to the unit. Now, I put an asterisk next to those last two bullets for consideration, because typically when a unit, when a Marine elects those two rights, they're going to do everything they can. However, in certain cases, should the accused, say, call a witness that's deployed for the next 6 months, it may not be feasible and it may not be within the capability of the unit to bring that Marine back. So in certain cases, the NJP authority just may say, hey, that witness can provide a written statement, or that witness has no bearing on the judgment that'll be made. And then also, same thing with the proceedings. It may not be feasible to do that. It may disrupt operations too much to do that, so the NJP authority may make a call on that. Now, I'll tell you again, typically, you're going to see the NJP authority make every effort to satisfy those rights should the Marine request them. So that's generally what should be in that notification document. But let's quickly go through first the NJP authority, and then we'll actually show what that notification document looks like. So looking here straight, Article 15, punishment limitations. If you see down here at the bottom, you can see an 03 captain and below is only capable of 7 days forfeiture of pay and then restriction for 14 days. As where a field grade officer and above is capable of a half month's pay for 2 months and then up to 45 days extra duties and 60 days of restriction. So a much more significant severity to the punishments that are out there. Now, does that mean that you, as a platoon commander, should recommend the level of NJP authority based off the severity of the punishment? No, not necessarily. It may be, it's up to the level of, or it's up to the chain of command to have that discussion and make that decision. But two, it's not necessarily just because the max punishment is there that it's always going to be levied. Each case should be considered for the circumstances it is in, and then the NJP authority, based off their deliberation and conversations, and then the actual discussion with the accused, will make that decision. So that's generally what punishment limitations are. Now moving on to the actual notification document, and again we have a template here that we've used at the basic school, and it's generally going to look like what you're going to see out in the fleet. One thing I want to point out though, here at the top, you see the two phrases in parentheses. You got the captain's mast and office hours. Some of you may serve one day in a naval command vice a Marine Corps command, and in that case, the Navy often refers to captain's mast or NJPs as captain's mast. In the Marine Corps, we'll typically refer to it as office hours. However, in both cases, the term NJP still is common understanding. So that term is fine. But if you hear office hours or captain's mast, they're referring to NJP. So looking up front at this document, and this document again is in Moodle for you if you want to review it closer. You can see up front we tell the Marine what article they're accused of violating, and then we give the situation and the summation of that violation. We also tell them the max punishment that can be levied at the NJP they're going to go to. So if it's at a company level, remember we're going to follow that chart we just looked at and put the max punishment on there so the Marine or the sailor understands that. The next thing in the document is their election of rights. So you can see here the Marine or sailor is going to initial next to legal review and which course they want to take. Here they're going to elect their right to refuse NJP, what they want to do there, their right to personally appear, and then their right to present evidence or witnesses at the NJP. And then finally, they're going to be acknowledged of their right to appeal and then be told the next level that they can appeal to. In this case, if it's at the basic school, if the CO of the basic school NJP someone, the next level that they refer to is training command. In the fleet, say 3-6, like the scenario we're going to talk about later, if the company commander is the NJP authority at this NJP, the next higher level to appeal to would be the battalion. and so on in the chain of command. That's a generic notification letter that is used. Again, you'll see slight differences depending on where you are in the fleet, but that's really the bare bones that should be hit when notifying the Marine or sailor. Now, let's finish up talking about documentation with this, what is commonly referred to as the NJP package. This package could be a binder, it could be a 6-part folder, but it's going to carry a couple of key documents. Those key documents we'll go through, but let me say this again. Depending on the situation, it may have more or less information in it. What you'll find is that there's only 3 or 4 documents that are really required. And then in addition to that, based off the circumstances of the specific case, it may be provided more or less. Critical thought should be put into what should be in this. One of the first and the most important document is the Unit Punishment Book entry, the UPB entry. We'll cover this in detail, but this is typically done by your senior enlisted, possibly your legal shop, depending on the level of NJP authority being used. The other thing is the notification that we just went through, signed by the accused, and their acknowledgement of rights in there will be provided in this, as well as all evidence being used against the accused by the command. Now, this is key, especially because this package is going to be provided to the Marine. Also, any prior 6105s or page 11s that contribute to the case. Now, in this and with the evidence against the accused, it doesn't mean that every negative thing against the Marine needs to go in the package. It means everything that goes and bears weight against this specific incident and would help the decision making of the NJP authority, that should go in there. Evidence can be everything from logbook entries, and it could be speeding tickets from civilian authorities. It could be all manner of things that contribute to framing up the problem, but it also could include those specific punishments that have already been levied against the Marine in the past, so long again as it bears with the specific accusation against the Marine for the NJP. Now, this package has to be provided to the Marine in a reasonable amount of time. Typically, the reasonable amount of time is 5 working days, meaning if you tell the Marine on Friday, by the next Friday, they should have that package in hand. The key thing about the package, the NJP package, is they need to have it in case they want to do a legal review. So one, they themselves should be able to review all the evidence in there prior to the NJP proceedings. But if they want to go to a civilian or military lawyer, they should have that in hand to go and get done and make sure that it's timely prior to the NJP proceedings and the decision by the NJP authority. So some platoon commander questions that need to be answered in this part of the process is knowing who creates and reviews each part of these documentations, everything from the notification to the UPB entry, and then collecting up all the evidence against the accused. Who's doing that? UPB entries are typically the job of the senior enlisted. So in the scenario we're going to see later, it's the company that's conducting the NJP. So it's going to be the company first sergeant that's putting this UPB entry together. Knowing who does that, who you need to provide information to, and then in some cases, knowing who you need to go to and check on the status, especially if you're concerned that your Marine or sailor won't be receiving the package in the 5 working days that they're supposed to be getting it, within the 5 working days. The other question is if the accused wants to see a lawyer, does the package that they're providing have all the evidence? If it's just the UPB entry and nothing else, there may be a question that you should ask back up the chain of command. Hey, is there anything else that should be in here? It seems a little thin. If he or she's going to go see a lawyer, they probably need some more evidence in there to make sure that the Marine gets a fair shake with legal support. Now, I'll pause here and tell you a TTP that several sergeant majors have mentioned to me. One, if you're going to give a Marine a NJP package to take to a legal review, specifically if they're going to see like base legal or the military lawyers in whatever command or installation you're in, it would behoove you as a platoon commander to send them with a staff NCO or an NCO, someone that has a little bit more G2, especially if they're a junior Marine, to help them make sure that whoever is supposed to be conducting that review gives them a fair shake. Again, just because the Marine is going through an NJP doesn't mean that we abdicate the right of taking care of them and making sure that they get all their rights under the legal system. So these are a couple of questions that you should answer as a platoon commander as you're going through this portion. Now, from the documentation, let's talk more about the UPB. Again, this is not a document that the platoon commander is going to be put together, but we want to make sure that we orient you to what it looks like and where specific information can be found on it and what it contains. So up top, you're going to get the summation of the offense and the article violated. After that, you're going to get the Marine's acknowledgement of their Article 31 rights, as well as the signature of the NJP authority that they have been briefed on this. Then they're going to get their right to refuse NJP. They're going to acknowledge that right on the UPB. And then after the actual NJP proceedings occur, whatever punishment or decision it gets made will be recorded on the UPB for implementation later after the proceedings are closed. And then at the bottom, you'll see the acknowledgement of the right to appeal both by the NJP authority that's presiding and the Marine accused. So again, the UPB is something to be aware of, but it is not typically the job of the platoon commander to put this together. It's typically the job of the senior enlisted. So let's turn to what actually occurs in an NJP. So one of the first things that I will tell you before we go into how the NJP is done is I've been using the terms typically and usually and should because there's a good amount of flexibility within Article 15 to run these NJP proceedings the best way the command sees fit. Now, the key thing to understand is that the required and the recommended personnel in here are typically what you're going to see in a fleet NJP or an NJP just in the Marine Corps, but it could differ on command and also on circumstances the Marine or the situation dictates. So who's going to attend? Well, the requirement is really the NJP authority and then the accused if they elect that right to be present at the proceedings. But really who's there? Well, it's who's recommended. It's all levels of command between the Marine and the NJP authority, or the accused, could be a sailor. So if in this case, the scenario we're going to see, it's a sergeant and it's a company level NJP, well, the level of command between the sergeant and the company commander is the platoon staff. So the platoon commander and the staff sergeant. If it were a battalion level, then you would have the platoon staff and then you have the company commander and typically the company first sergeant there with them as the battalion commander or squadron commander presides as the NJP authority. That's key because all those levels of command give both the NJP authority and the Marine or sailor accused a lot more backup. One, to assist in the deliberation, and two, to provide context and assessment of what happened and what's going on with the accused overall in the command. Another key portion is any witnesses called by the accused or the command to give a statement. One of the things about the witnesses is, again, as we discussed, called there. There's someone that's going to stand up and contribute to the NJP proceedings and provide more information. You're going to have someone recording typically. This could be the senior enlisted advisor. This could be a clerk. This could be a number of many people, but someone in there making sure that we have a record of what occurs. Then you're going to have the senior enlisted advisor to the NJP authority. This is typically the key person putting the NJP together. So if it's a company level NJP, your company first sergeant is going to be the person that's really bringing all of this together. They're going to be doing the UPB entry. They're going to be briefing the accused Marine on how to report in. They're going to be coaching the platoon staff and the NJP authority on how the proceedings will occur. And also, just as a senior enlisted advisor and another leader in the command, they're probably going to have had a conversation with the NJP authority about what's occurring prior to the NJP going down. And then lastly, the observers. So the observers are different than the witnesses in that observers are there to provide one, transparency to the unit to make sure that, hey, we saw Sergeant so and so get NJP'd, and the NJP authority did everything fair and just, and they considered all relevant information before making a decision. The other thing too is they communicate back out to the unit what happened. And really a lot of that's to assist in good order and discipline, to know that, hey, if you violate an order, you're going to be held accountable. Typically, you want to make those observers rank equivalent to the accused, and the number of observers and who they are is a conversation with the chain of command. It's not just the platoon commander that gets to pick who those observers are, but it would behoove you to bring peers from the accused unit. In the case of the scenario you'll see later, if it's a sergeant getting NJP, the other two sergeants in that platoon are the observers, so they see what went on with their peer. So what things does the platoon commander need to consider? One, will the accused request witnesses? Again, if it's a junior Marine, just like with the legal support, you may want to ask them directly, hey, who do you want, or do you want to call witnesses, and if so, who? And then just making sure the chain of command is aware of that. Obviously, in most cases, the senior enlisted is going to be the one pulling that information from them, but it would behoove you as the platoon commander to know that as well. And then also, who are the observers from the accused units? So having an understanding of who would be the best to observe and who would be the best to see this and benefit from this, and also pass the information along to the unit, picking those observers should be a consideration for the platoon commander. They're probably not going to be the final word. If it's a company NJP, you probably want to tell the company commander who you're assuming should be selected as observers. But again, it's a key piece of making sure that the NJP is fair and just, and that the proceedings get communicated back out to the rest of the command. So in addition to the proceedings and who attends them, let's talk about generally what's going to go down. So the parts of it. I got the word script up there because most NJP authorities, when they receive the packet and they're ready to actually do the proceedings, when they open it up, the senior enlisted would have provided them a script that helps them just stay on pace and to say all the right things as you move through the NJP. Again, scripts are not typically uniform. They may be uniform inside of a unit, but you may see slight differences. That's okay, so long as they're hitting the basic parts that we're going to go through here in just a second. One of the first things that will occur is the NJP authority may bring in everyone except the accused beforehand. Typically, they'll bring in the chain of command and the senior enlisted advisor and just discuss, hey, here's what I understand about the situation. Here's all the evidence presented. Here's the witnesses we're going to see. And here's my understanding really of the Marine's character or the sailor's character. They'll probably just start that just to level the board, and you'll see that in the scenario, just a discussion up front on what's going on. Now, when they actually bring the accused in, the first thing the NJP authority is going to do is read the charge to the accused. Then they're going to remind the accused of their rights and what they selected on that notification and receive verbal affirmation back. Then the NJP authority is going to ask the accused what they plead. And it might not just be a question. There might be more to it into, hey, what went on, man? But they're going to get either a guilty or a not guilty. If they get a guilty, they're going to proceed with the NJP. If they get a not guilty, in most cases, they're going to stop the proceedings there and get with the legal officer for the command or maybe the judge advocate and discuss, what does this mean? What ramifications are there? Should this thing go ahead and be deferred and move on to a court-martial? In many cases, if the Marine or sailor says not guilty, the first thing the command assumes is maybe they just didn't understand the ramifications of saying not guilty, and or there was a change in the circumstances. So that discussion will happen. But typically, you'll see an NJP kind of stop right there, and they'll go, okay, wait, why are you saying not guilty? Regardless, it will be addressed typically by a legal or a judge advocate after that. From there, the NJP authority is going to ask the accused if they have any evidence. What they'll provide and what they want to discuss in there may be provided just to help the NJP authority understand what circumstances they were in, and it may contribute again to understanding the guilty, not guilty plea. But really what they're going to get the chance to do is present their own evidence and witnesses and to frame that information, frame the situation in the way they saw it. From there, the NJP authority has the option to dismiss the accused while they deliberate. They also have the option to not dismiss the accused. And you'll see in the scenario, they're actually going to talk about what punishment the Marine should get with the Marine in the room. Now, the NJP authority sometimes won't do this. They'll just, hey, here's the decision, and they'll go. But oftentimes what they'll do is they'll go around the room and ask the levels of command and the different leaders in the room what their assessment of the overall thing is. Again, could be done with the accused outside the room, could be done with them in the room. But in the case you'll see today, it'll be with the accused standing there. Then the NJP authority is going to make their decision and assign any punishment to the accused based off their decision. They're going to tell the Marine or the sailor this in the room. At this point, oftentimes they dismiss the accused to wait out in the hallway, and then they're going to wrap everything up with everyone else in the room. But the final thing that will occur, whether it's in the actual NJP proceeding itself, or oftentimes it'll take place in the first sergeant or the sergeant major's office right afterwards, they're going to pull the accused in and again review with them their right to appeal the NJP decision. So that's generally the parts you're going to see. Understand it may look a little confusing. Again, when you get out of the fleet, talk through this even before an NJP is going to occur. Go, hey, here's the parts that are going to occur, and make sure you understand what part as a platoon commander you may play in any of this. But specifically, do you know if the accused is going to plead not guilty? And if so, if you know that beforehand, you probably want to bring that up to the chain of command so that they have a chance to probably discuss with the Marine or sailor what's going on and then go from there. The other thing is if the platoon commander, if you're going to be present in the room, you need to be prepared to provide an assessment in the room to the deliberation, to whatever punishment is. You also need to be able to speak to the Marine's character and impact on not only the Marine themselves, but the good order and discipline of the platoon and the unit as a whole. Really, you need to be present in the room, mentally present, making sure that you're listening to all the evidence and assessments that's going on, and then making the decision from there. In most cases, the platoon commander is asked, hey, what do you think should occur? And you'll see this in the company NJP. Hey, what do you think should occur? And the platoon commander has an assessment there. So make sure going into it, those two questions are answered. So let's move on to the actual NJP video that we're going to see. The scenario is we're in 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines, 3-6, and the accused is Sergeant Eldridge. He's a squad leader in 3-6, and he's accused of an Article 92 violation, which is failure to obey an order. Lieutenant Nelson is his platoon commander, and Staff Sergeant Metzel, his platoon sergeant. You'll see them in the NJP proceedings and what part they play. But the NJP authority is the company commander, Captain Bianca, and you're going to see his First Sergeant Lopez also in there playing a part as well. In this case, Sergeant Eldridge has been caught speeding. He's specifically been cited for reckless driving twice, and even though he's performed really well in his billet as a squad leader, his company commander gave him a 6105 for the first offense, and then now they've decided to move on to a company level NJP for this second offense. And what you're going to hear is the company commander specifically concerned is, you know, as a leader, you've got to be held to a standard, but also you being held to a standard as a leader, what does that mean to the rest of the unit? So a point of clarification before we watch the video. You're going to hear Captain Bianca refer to the observers as witnesses. Witnesses, again, remember, witnesses are someone that's going to stand up and provide a statement or evidence on the behalf of the accused or the command in the NJP. Observers are simply there to observe. However, you're sometimes going to hear in the fleet observers referred to as witnesses. They're going to witness the proceedings. So just understand those two terms are kind of interchangeable, but that's just clarification for the video. So going into the video, again, pull it up here.
Sir, Second Lieutenant Nelson, Staff Sergeant Metzel, reporting is over.
Nice having you. All right, so I know we're getting ready to kick this NJP. Talk to me a little bit about Sergeant Eldridge and this particular incident.
Yes, sir. So, Sergeant Eldridge's overall performance, he's my number 2, my 3 squad leaders. I gave him the most junior squad, and he's taken it and hit the ground running. I remember from AP Hill, I don't know if he had a chance to step into the HLZ classes, but he's kind of gone above and beyond. You saw the training support request for us to do live fire. As far as at work, he's doing a great job, sir. Outside work, we've had 2 reckless driving incidents. First one, he just said he forgot what he was doing. And the second one, he said he was chasing a high. He clearly didn't get it the first time, so that's why we're here, sir. Recommendation from me is that we give him 14 days restriction and 14 days EPD. Prior, when he was a more junior Marine, he did have some financial troubles. He reached out to Navy Marine Corps Society. Try to get that set up. I would request, sir, that you do not suspend his pay, because I do not want this to mount to a thing where now he's got financial problems and we have more issues with him later on, sir.
Okay, so we're suspending the pay. What do you think, Staff Sergeant?
I concur, sir. I think it's important that we set the tone here that it doesn't matter how great of a performer you're going to be if you can't handle yourself on and off duty, then you're going to pay the punishment. But I also think we need to set the standard that we're not trying to put Marines into a bad situation. So I think suspending the pay on the 14 days of EPD, 14 days of restriction is fair and sets the tone, sir.
Okay, yeah, I tend to agree with you. The standard across the company has been, you start messing up twice, we're gonna have to bring you to NJP, and obviously the next step, and this is for you 2 to do, is to start to bring him back from this, because for anything more, we're gonna have to start looking at the time NJP and start talking about the administrative separation process, which is not something I want to do. I've been able to interact with him a couple times, whether it be at AP Hill or when I was issuing that last 6105, and I don't want to do that with this Marine. I'm gonna look at you 2 as a leadership challenge to solve and fix this Marine before it becomes more of an issue to the company. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Staff Sergeant, do you have the witnesses ready to go?
I do, sir.
All right, please bring them in.
Yes, sir. Sergeant Erickson, Sergeant Bowers, report to the commanding officer.
Morning, sir. Sergeant Byron, Sergeant Erickson, reporting for orders, sir.
All right, hey, stand these. Why are you 2 here today?
Witness NJP, sir.
Witness and NJP, right? So we have this system in place for you 2 to be here. What is the reason why we have witnesses as part of NJPs?
To carry out the proceedings and make sure it's just, sir.
Okay, carry out the proceedings, make sure it's just, make sure it's timely and everything. What do you think, Sergeant Bowers?
Spread the word to the rest of the unit that Marines will be held accountable.
Yeah, that's what I'm really looking for right now. We've had a couple of speeding incidents within the company as of late, and I want to make sure that everyone knows that they will be held accountable. All right? Is this going to be unfair? Absolutely not. But Marines will be held accountable according to what we can do as Marines, and that's via the NJP process. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. So when we're done, I'm going to ask you to, if there's any issues with anything, and if you thought it was fair. So as you're watching this, just take note in your head, and when we're done, we'll talk afterwards. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. Please step off to the side. Staff Sergeant, please bring him right in.
Yes, sir. Sergeant Eldridge, report to the commanding officer.
Good afternoon, sir. Sergeant Eldridge, reporting as order.
Sergeant Eldridge, you're suspected of committing violations of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and I am considering imposing non-judicial punishment. Specifically, you are suspected of violating Article 92, failure to obey an order or regulation, reckless driving, 85 in a 45-mile-per-hour zone. In Block 2 of the UPB, you've indicated that you understand all your rights under Article 31 Bravo UCMJ. Is this correct?
Yes, sir.
You are advised that office hours is not a trial, and that a determination of misconduct on your part is not a conviction by a court. Further, you are advised that formal rules of evidence used in trials by court-martial do not apply to office hours. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
You get what that means? That we don't necessarily have the same burden of proof here at a NJP that we necessarily would at a court-martial?
Yes, sir.
How do you plead?
Guilty, sir.
All right, you do not have to make a statement regarding the offense, and any statement made by you may be used as evidence against you. Do you wish to tell me about the offense, or do you have a verbal or written statement to make?
No, sir.
All right, I know you don't want to make a statement, but I want to hear from you. What was going through your head? Because this is twice now that you and I have had a conversation about your speeding habits. What's going through your head right now, Sergeant Eldridge?
Right now, sir, is disappointed. I feel like I let down, my squad, the rest of the company. At the time, I guess I was just chasing that same adrenaline high from the weekend. I understand I made a bad decision, and I would expect the same punishment for my Marines, sir.
Yeah, I would sure hope so. As a squad leader, you are the epitome of what a Marine should be in the eyes of your Marines. And in the eyes of your Marines right now, they think they have someone who can just get away with stuff. And that's why you're here today. I need you to be able to hold them accountable. Additionally, we talk about training for combat at all times, right? I need to know that when we go to combat, you have the ability to turn off that adrenaline junkie sense that you have to yourself. Because that's what's going to spike when we get into combat. You're going to have that adrenaline going, and I need you to be level-headed, cool, calm, and collect as the sergeant. Because if you're acting any way as an adrenaline junkie in that situation, guess what your Marines are going to do? They're going to do the same thing, right? So you have to be able to control that adrenaline. You have to be able to understand what your actions are and the repercussions of your actions, because your Marines will act in the same way you do. I'm hoping that hopefully you, as you walk out of this, you can figure out a way to solve this. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any witnesses that can tell me about your involvement in this offense?
No, sir.
Is there anything else you'd wish to offer?
No, sir.
All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to talk to your leadership. I want to hear about your character and what sort of led to us being at this point. Lieutenant Nelson, talk to me about this Marine.
Yes, sir. Sergeant Eldridge is my number 2 squad leader. He's a rising star within the platoon. I gave him the youngest squad based on the fact that he picked up billets and leadership with his previous battalion early on in his career. He's taken advanced opportunities to seek training for the entire platoon through aviation and helo-borne operations that he was experienced with before, and he has already sought forth to pick up TSRs, training support requests, to do live fire events, to get his Marines to even a higher level. He trains them well. He does a great job always at work. Off duty, he's made 2 distinct mistakes of the same nature, and no matter what we've done, sir, at your level or in my counseling, sir, it hasn't hit home yet. I want to hit Sergeant Eldridge to make sure that he knows that he can't do this, to make an example within the platoon and the company. But I would like to also see him come back from it, because he is a good Marine.
All right, great. Staff Sergeant.
Yes, sir. Concur with what Lieutenant Nelson said, sir. The biggest issue that I have here with this incident is, especially our NCO Corps, we need to handle ourselves as all-around professionals and have that all-Marine concept both on and off duty. Sergeant Eldridge did not display that, sir, and therefore I believe this is warranted. He is a great Marine and has done nothing but been a force multiplier since getting to the unit. But I expect to see him make some changes in his off-duty life. And I've had a talk with him, and I've explained to him it doesn't matter what happens to you. What matters is what you do about it. And coming off of this NJP is really going to determine what type of Marine Sergeant Eldridge is based off of what he does about it, sir.
Thank you, Staff Sergeant. First Sergeant.
Sir, this is a very serious offense. I'd recommend that we max Marine out.
Thank you, First Sergeant. Is there anything else you wish to offer after hearing these statements by your leadership?
No, sir.
All right, attention to orders. I find you guilty of Article 92 and impose the following punishment. Forfeiture of 1/2 month pay for 1 month, and restriction for 14 days and extra duties for 14 days. Everyone else stand at ease. You understand what's happening right now, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to suspend that pay. Your platoon commander clearly knows you and clearly wants to look out for you right now. I understand you had some financial hardships in your past, so I'm going to suspend that. So I'm going to put the ball in your court. The ball's in your court to decide, do you want to mess up again? Do you want to be a leader? Or do you want to continue to down the road that you're following yourself on? Where if you mess up again, I'm going to take that money from you, and then we'll look at additional charges after that. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Understand this, Sergeant Eldridge. You've put yourself in a predicament. You haven't been here long, and the other sergeants within the company are doing good work, and I need you to figure out a way to step up from where you're at. I think you can. Your leadership clearly thinks you can. But understand this also, if you mess up again, you will be brought to battalion NJP, and you will be started the process for administrative separation. Do you understand that? Yes, sir. You are advised that you have the right to appeal this punishment to the commanding officer of 3-6. Your appeal must be made within a reasonable time frame, usually 5 days. Following this hearing, the first sergeant will advise you more of your right to appeal. Do you understand this?
Yes, sir.
Sergeant Eldridge, you're dismissed.
Dismissed, sir. Captain Gilman.
All right, witnesses. Was what we just had happen fair?
Yes, sir.
Why?
It held the Marine accountable, and at the same time, sir, you did the Marine a favor by suspending his pay and allowing him to have a chance to come back from this.
Okay, why should we do that for our Marines, you think? Both of you are sergeants, both of you are Marines, why do we need to care for them like that?
So they're not behind on their bills, sir.
Yeah, not behind on their bills, and what happens if you end up behind on your bills?
That weighs in your mind at work, and it makes you unfit for the mission.
You know, we make it so that he can't continue to get out of this spiral that he's in. That's right. I hope both of you think about that as well as you lead your Marines. These opportunities where you can see what's going on at the company level can translate down to the platoon level, the squad level. That way everyone across the company is on the same page. As long as we're all operating in the same picture, we're going to be okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Additionally, as his peers, I need you to help bring him back up. It's not going to be just the platoon leadership that brings him back. It'll be you two as well. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right, you two are dismissed.
Dismiss that, sir. Morning,
First Sergeant, please close this out with Staff Sergeant Metzel and make sure we take care of this for you.
Here we go, sir. I thought I was having him come to the office with me. Yes, sir.
All right. So there we see what a generic NJP looks like, and really what we're going to work on from there is what part does the platoon commander play. Now, we've covered most of it, so I just want to leave you with some final thoughts. One, your first NJP could be a battalion or squadron NJP with your battalion or squadron commander. It may be at a much higher level. That's dependent on your command, but if you answered those questions that we were going through, you should have an understanding of that. The reason I mention that is at a battalion level, there might be a much higher requirement for information that you may be having to fill as the platoon commander and provide information up. The other thing is you could be in a non-standard command relationship where you are lateral from your NJP authority. It could be a headquarters company or H&S company. It could be a different type of unit throughout the wing, the MLG, the command element. There are just many different command structures out there. So asking those questions are going to help you know, okay, what's the escalation through the NJP authority within your unit. So let's review these questions again. Hey, platoon commander, upon check-in, what's that lowest level of echelon of command that an NJP can be performed at in this unit? Then once you start going towards an NJP, who's in charge of each part of that documentation? Then asking the accused if they need to see a lawyer, and then kind of shepherding them in that process to make sure that they get their fair shake. Asking them, hey, are you going to have witnesses? And then talking to the rest of the chain of command about who should be observers. And then, again, right before the proceeding, making sure you understand if they're going to say not guilty and what the ramifications on the proceedings are from there. And then finally, hey, when you're in the NJP, making sure you have the presence of mind to think through what your understanding and what your opinion is should you have been the NJP authority. I want to close this out by saying a couple of things. One, if you notice, NJP is a much more personal process than a court. It's not some court scene from TV. I mean, you saw Lieutenant Nelson have to stand next to his Marine and tell the NJP authority what he thought of him. You may even be called upon to say, hey, I think this punishment is right. You have to be unemotional. You have to be looking at a broader perspective where you understand the good order and discipline of the unit, but you also have to understand who your Marine is and what situation they're in. In this case, they talked to Sergeant Eldridge's financial situation and how, hey, he'll get the point if we give him this punishment, but this financial forfeiture of pay, it may hurt him worse instead of achieving some remediation effect on him. So understand that NJPs are sometimes a black box where you just see things go in and things come out. What the purpose of this class was to kind of orient you on what generally they look like, and what you will experience when you get out of the Fleet Marine Force, understanding that those questions in the yellow boxes, if you can answer those, you're pretty much going to figure out how your unit does in NJPs, and be better prepared for that for you, and in the case, hopefully not, that any of your Marines or sailors go to an NJP. As I said before, Major Thompson in warfighting. I would love to answer any questions you may have. However, I would